Welcome, welcome, welcome. So that's what I've been doing this today. Was yesterday I had this mess of a thing going on where I realized that I could use certain alignments as the foundation to go from. So I did that here. Made this map today. So I was thinking, admittedly, I don't know for certain that this is unequivocally precise. It really does look fitting, which is encouraging, but I haven't measured like the length of this versus the length of this. At least to it's like over here and over here in these regions. And down here, I feel like there's some overlap that's allowed because it's kind of like at this point that they all have where maybe it's not quite as identical lengths, but like 9 to 10 ish. Like this should be pretty much the same length. I think it is, generally speaking, to here to here, looking at that one, depending on exactly where it connects in and so on. So there's also that going on. But 10 to 11 looks a little further, but at the same time, if it wraps, there may be some reasoning to it, and maybe it extended in the process where it just wasn't as long. Like over here, these sides were just closer in maybe initially, and then they kind of fanned out as it stretched apart, because this was attached here and then it ended up sliding off. So maybe as it came off, it energetically stretched, pulled on it like a rubber band and elongated, but it didn't snap back maybe. Although maybe to a degree it snapped back. I wonder if there's something of that nature with some, I don't know. But in essence, this part came off first, which is when these C-mounts blew, so the top blew, or at least it led to, it removed the top and then that left this hole for the landslides to occur, and they did out of there as this sphere particle literally just rolled out. And as it happened, 5 here is actually still connected, so this segment was connected, but as it broke apart, it also rolled out so that it's still here. The reality is that it's still connected 5 to 5. So none of this is connected. It's just this is how it was most convenient to align it and map 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 3, 4 4, 5 5. I think this is pretty good. I know it's a little confusing when it goes 4 5 6 and this bend, and over here it goes straight, but that's why it's wrapping around a sphere. Where this is just an arm that fell out, and this is more like a main body that contains its shape still, because it was the mass, the bottom mass. This was a middle segment, the along the equator, and then the northern segment. So it's probably a certain region. Notably, this actually on a sphere wraps around and comes down on my Twitter here on this orange. When I drew that as a pole and then just off of the pole, it actually goes down like this, where then it connects 11, 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14 to over here. I know it's kind of ridiculous. This is also Nihao. I called it Puai, but I think that's a town, city on the island. It's actually this island here that I meant to be referring to. And then I didn't bother with the Kaula, but essentially it's all this stretch here through here. But then because it's connected to this side and this side, it's just got Maui and Oahu wrapped around. But then they just splay out, and then 5 stays connected here. So it ends up with the final result of it like this, where it left behind the top here, and then it like fanned out, essentially. Probably rolled out. It probably didn't just like sit there and go like this. Like it probably started to roll out. Like this chunk really bonded with, as this particle is generally moving like in a direction, because I think it's sliding to like a low point in the Pacific Ocean to like stabilize at the low point, and it begins to like physically bond. So like the North Pole bonded maybe here and like broke away this segment that's more like my orange, like just the top, just right here. It's really not yet broken away anything else, just the top and the little like thing down to the equator pretty much. I know it's kind of ridiculous to be on an orange, but it's hard to do this otherwise without like really having skills at 3D making stuff, and that's 3D maps of this, and I'm not sure how to do it beyond what I'm doing right here. So, now my next step is to start to consider, I have not, beforehand I was considering geology more like directly, like this. I was literally just cutting out the island's geology, but it really does miss, like by putting this here. First of all, it's false by this standard, where the elongated portion here actually is over here. So it's kind of like not the worst, I guess, because 4 here, four goes to here, which then is this segment, which I've been generally saying this segment goes to this region, like generally to Maui. So it does fit there, which is good. But I haven't really closely inspected the totality of like anything geological about this. This shape, this arrangement, to be like, okay, how about this arrangement? Do the currents make sense in this arrangement? Because that's really part of the process, is like coming up with an arrangement that makes sense enough to then go through the currents and then be like, okay, something's wrong here, or be like, ding, ding, ding. And notably, like obviously, I'm well aware this is not the totality of Hawaiian Islands. Let's just open Google Maps. Hawaii. Go to Hawaii. Take me to Hawaii. Like obviously, there are many more back here. All of this, but I would say like it's basically doing the same thing, just for further layers outward. Like it's probably just stripping even more matrix-like material initially. It's just getting bonded to the like sticky basaltic, like still moltenish material, and it's just attaching as it rolls, pretty much like a sphere rolling. It's just rolling along, and then it, like the Earth expansion process causes it to change direction when the rapid expansion phase begins. So it bends over here. Let's see if that's around 66 million. Hawaiian island chain under 20 degrees. 39, so not quite at 66, but really thereabouts. Okay. Maybe approaching 66 million, the particle starts to physically move. Like it was forming somewhere stably, effectively over here, maybe somewhere. I don't know. And then it got like caught in the currents and the depression into the Pacific Ocean that essentially is probably here. So it rolled into it, and then at some point the expansion bubbled it, like upwelled pretty much like a shield volcano. It upwelled this region and pushed it over here out of this region. Maybe. But essentially leaving behind material where like the actual Hawaiian Islands, even though they're not all of it, really do account for like the significant portion of the inner material of the particle. So if we're looking to see if this happens, like we can really focus on these islands, and like everything else is just like some segment that's maybe further out on the outer shell of the particle that was just easier to break away from the like core, and then as it reached the core, the more nucleus of the particle, it really started to feed sufficiently large masses to be islands. And only then are we really approaching the inner core, like a equivalent portion of this Hawaiian particle sphere, something of that nature, where it's like not unreasonable to mostly focus on these, because I know there's a bunch of like unaccounted for things here. Like it's generally a lot of mass back here. Like even if it's not above sea level, it's a lot of mass relative to here, and it's probably like this is almost like an inner shell, and this is like an outer shell that was just more stable. But still maybe spherical-ish to a degree back here. Or polyhedral. Okay. So before I end this, I noticed, I wasn't doing it intentionally, but by putting these here this way, I noticed, generally speaking, we have like a internal connection region that are kind of like close here. And then like if I just follow the arcs without so much worrying about the numbers that I arbitrarily chose, but following the arcs, like there's kind of like a spiral here, or maybe I'm not sure, like something of this nature, where that generally like goes through 4 to 8 to 13 to 10 to 5 to 7 to 12 to 11 to 6 to 6 to 15. Like it spirals. And then 15 being a point, it's actually converging on that point also. Like even though it's spiraling out in this where it like opened the flower of Hawaii pretty much from like the stem, maybe. I don't know. Generally just opening up Hawaii though, the particle, because it really, I believe this happened. I'm becoming like, I was getting a little concerned that I was like just going up an avenue of like fruitless tree, if you will. Like if it didn't happen, so it's moot. But I'm like, the more I look into it, the more I'm like, okay, good. 4 is a chakra, like real distinct. 5 is still connected. Like this really does flow generally into Maui, which is good, even though it's not quite as directly into Maui as I would like it to be. It is through this chakra and then into Maui, so maybe these are still like similar to the things I was saying where it is like an accreted mass in some way where the currents like pushed it against resistance ultimately to shape each of them. Over here, like 8 to 8, 7 to 7. Kilauea tied to this region. So that would be something worth just checking out. Like, does this make any sense generally close to Kilauea? Which is this side. Yeah. Here. Ah, it's so cool. It really looks like a disc, like an arm of a galaxy in this segment. Like it's spiraling, like a spiral. Like it has a spiral aspect because it was rotating. So here, though, this region, like if I just go like this, just maybe zoom out a little bit, turn this off of this. There's got to be a way to remove everything so I can more easily. No, sure, let's just do that size. Okay. Come over here. Here. Keep it the same dimensions. Here. Okay, we gotta. Gotta lasso us some of this, generally speaking here. Okay. Cut, paste. Take this out. Turn it at like a 60-degree angle, 30-degree angle. Maybe make this 2/3 of 1700 is 570-ish times 2. So let's just say 10, 11, 30, 11, 30. Make it a little smaller. And make this one about 420. Hit. Is that how I have it? Not even how I have it, maybe. 8 here. Can kind of see this slump here that really bows out far, but kind of is part of the shape of the island itself. Like maybe that's under Kilauea, this segment was like a portion of the undercrust of Kilauea that now is not there, and Kilauea is more directly abutting the Earth without this segment. Maybe it didn't really slide off as much as just like detach at that amount of the spheres, like under crust at that point that attached. Well, this all bonded, this also bonded, but then it broke underneath here, like, or actually, would it be? Yeah, underneath here. Maybe. And then as it's rolling, it leaves behind this, which then cools first, which ages, makes it look older, and then this breaks off, which then again like breaks off as it rolls, so it leaves behind a chunk. So maybe it's rolling more like exactly here. The North Pole is like touching, or the South Pole is like at that point it's actually physically top, like perpendicularly. The North Pole is up, South Pole is down, so it bonds energetically to the Earth enough to detach the rest of it there, and then it continues to roll though, and unravels this segment, which then like unravels over to this way too, kind of arcing this way. This last like chunk at the bottom of it, the particle then just kind of holding the remainder, like this is the final stable chunk that came to rest as the particle was moving, rolling pretty much and stripping its layers. Okay, so that's what I got for now. See you soon.